Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Tito, je fais des vidéos sur les finances personnelles sur mon autre chaîne, mais sur cette chaîne je parle d'autres choses comme aujourd'hui où je vais revoir le film Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti is a biopic about the life and times of the fearless and renowned Nigerian activist. The film centers on a period in her life when she led a revolution against traditional rulers in Egba land over unfair taxes being imposed on market women, one of the many hallmarks in the life of this legendary educator, reformer, women's activist, and political campaigner. Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti is directed by Bolanle Austen-Peters. Now, before I get into the review proper, I want to say a few things about this film, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. First of all, this movie has been a big deal for a few months now. It came out late last year, it showed late last year at AFRIF, and it was a big deal. People loved the film. Lots of people saw it at AFRIF in November, and it also won the award for Best Movie and Best Screenplay. Now, in May at the AMVCAs, the film also won the award for Best Screenwriting. Tunde Babalola, who is the writer of the film, picked up the award for the movie. And I typically associate Tunde Babalola with many of Kunle Afonlayon's films like October 1, Mokalik, Ijogbo, and a few others. So I was a bit surprised to see that he was the writer of this film. He did a brilliant job. Hats off to him, right? The second thing I want to say about this film is that the movie showed at Silverbird Cinemas a few months ago, but it didn't stay long in the cinemas. I think it only did a week or two. And by the time I decided to go and see it, it was already out of the cinemas. But a month ago, it came out in cinemas, like many more cinemas in Nigeria, maybe even West Africa, on May 17th. And I went to go and see the film, but when I got to the counter and they told me it was 7,500 naira to see the film, I was like, 7.5? I've never paid that much to see a movie. So I said, you know what? I did what you guys typically do. I said, you know what? I'll wait till it comes out on streaming. So I took my ATM card and I went home. Little did I know that a month later, the film will be out on Prime Video. So hey, kudos to me, I saved some money by waiting to see this film, like many of you, on Prime Video. Yeah, so those are my stories about Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. That said, let's dive into the brilliant performances in this movie, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. Kehinde Bankole, where do I begin? I don't think anyone could have done a better job playing Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti than Kehinde Bankole. She performed that role masterfully, playing this historical figure who is known for her fearlessness, her audacity, and her gumption. And I think because Kehinde Bankole has a history of playing strong female characters who really advocate for themselves or for the people in their lives, it just felt like, as the kids say, she was in her bag playing this role and playing this historical figure, and she did it so well. She did it so well. I think even, you know, with the fact of that she has that gap tooth thing going on, which the Kuti family is actually known for, it just seemed like the stars aligned and like she was born to play Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, and she did it so well. My favorite scene, because the performance was so powerful that there are scenes that almost brought me to tears, you know, and I think my favorite scene was when the women got beaten, she got locked up, and then she goes back to the front of Alake's house to, you know, continue the protest, and she's overwhelmed and they welcome her back. That was a very moving scene. And this other scene that I really liked was when they actually go into the palace and they meet with the Alake and the representative of Mr. Dundee, and the Alake stands up and he challenges her and she says, oh, you actually stood up to address me and everything. That was another powerful scene. What I'm saying essentially is that Kehinde Bankole left a mark, and she won the award for, and I will talk about that at the end of this video, she won the award for Best Actress at the AMVCAs for her performance in Adire. But, I mean, the performance in this film, let me leave that alone for now. Let's move on. Let's move on before I put my foot in my mouth one more time. Ibrahim Suleiman plays her husband in this film, Israel Ransome-Kuti, Fela's father, apparently. And when I saw that Ibrahim Suleiman was in this film, I was like, really? But I have to say, Ibrahim Suleiman did a good enough job. You know, interestingly enough, the character is kind of like in the background, you know, and because Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti was such a powerful figure in history, we didn't really hear that much about her husband, Israel. Well, at least I didn't. I don't know, but I didn't. It's because of this film that I learned that he was a clergyman and an administrator and an educator. I never knew that Fela's father was a man of God. The irony, right? So I think Ibrahim Suleiman did a good enough job, seeing as his presence in the film or the character in the film wasn't that prominent. If it was a situation where the character needed to be so prominent, then I would have worried about Ibrahim Suleiman filling that role. I think majorly because Ibrahim Suleiman is not a Yoruba man, you know, I think he's from Edo State like I am, and I would have worried about him playing a Yoruba man so well. It could have been neither here nor there, but with historical figures and things like this, I think people are just, they have a preference for things being a bit more authentic. So, I don't know. The point I'm making is that Ibrahim Suleiman did a good enough job given the assignment that was presented before him, right? So he did a good job. Next, let's talk about Patrick Diabwa, who plays Mr. Thomas, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti's father. He's not in the film for very long, but he's good. He's good, and I felt like he deserved to be recognized. So kudos to him. That's also a non-Yoruba man playing a Yoruba man, but hey, I can let it slide. I think I liked the performance, and I liked the father-daughter dynamic between his character and the young Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, who at the time was called Frances Thomas. Shout outs to that young actress whose name was Yewande Ayo Olumoko. I hope I didn't butcher that name. Shout out to her. Next, Adebayo Salami, who played the Alake. In fact, let me group Adebayo Salami, Dele Odule, and Jide Kosoko. Let me just group them together, because when I saw Adebayo Salami, I knew he was going to be in the film. I was like, okay, fine. He plays a royal father, right? Or like he plays royalty in the community. But when I saw Dele Odule and Jide Kosoko, I was like, do these men, do they come as like a buy one get one free type of situation? Because I've seen them in so many films together, playing these royal fathers or these chiefs or obas or whatnot. Kudos to them once again. I'm not, you know, trying to run them down, but it feels like, again, so I was wondering, is it a case of what, if you hire Adebayo Salami and you hire Dele Odule, you get Jide Kosoko for free or something like that? They're just in so many films together, playing similar roles. I love them, they're great actors. Kudos to these giants and these legends of Yoruba Nollywood. And I have to say, Jide Kosoko I'd imagine he's a very agreeable actor. He's easy to work with, because the number of films that Jide Kosoko is in, you can't be in that many films and be a difficult actor or not be good at your job. So shout outs to Jide Kosoko, shout outs to Adebayo Salami, and shout out to Dele Odule. Dele Odule, his character, was it Otun or OC? I think Dele Odule's character was OC, right? He played like the mouthpiece of the king, particularly in that scene where Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti goes to the palace for the first time. The king doesn't say anything, but it's just OC who is speaking and, you know, trying to put Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti in her place. I think this was my favorite Dele Odule film. Performance rather. My favorite Dele Odule performance. He was so good. He really did embody that character, and it was very, very believable. Adebayo Salami coming back to him, playing the Alake and all that. Great performance. I liked the scene once again where he stands up and, you know, really challenges Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, asking her who does she think she is and all that. And him being adamant, because normally, I think Adebayo Salami, sometimes a bit of a difficult character in movies, but towards the end, maybe he comes around or he becomes a more likable character. But in this film, from beginning to the end, he didn't seem like an agreeable man. So that was a bit interesting for me to see. Joke Silva playing the much older Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. And while the performance was good in this film, I didn't feel like there was a standout moment from Joke Silva in the film. The opening scene, more or less the opening scene, right, where she's picked up by the soldiers and thrown off the balcony, that was well executed, that was moving, it was a fantastic opening to the film. But I wish there was a moment in the final year of her life, maybe when she's having the interview with the white lady or some other period just before she passes on, where there was something particularly powerful in terms of Joke Silva's delivery of the character at that point in time. I don't feel like we got that. She was good in the film, but maybe I was just hoping for more. So that's as far as we'll go with the performances for now. Watch till the end of the video where I will be giving some honorable mentions, because this film is star-studded and there are lots of actors who played supporting roles in this film that I really just want to recognize towards the end of this review. Hey guys, quick one. Do remember to like this video by clicking on the like button and subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. Those things are quite important to me and for the performance of my channel. Feel free to also watch some of the adverts that play throughout the course of my videos because that's kind of how I make money around here. Okay, thanks if you've done those things or will do any of those things. Now let's head back to the video. Ce que j'ai aimé. I liked that this film was a biopic and a freaking good biopic. In fact, it broke the record and is now the most successful or highest grossing biopic out of Nigeria and West Africa. It did over 100 million naira in its cinema run, and that apparently is a record, and I'm really happy about that. So there's that. I also like that this film preserves a bit or captures a bit of Nigeria's history and the Ransome-Kuti history. I think Nigeria's history and Africa's history at large is very rich, but there aren't enough movies or things in the visual medium that capture our history or tell our stories. There are books and such, and there's text, on the internet, but there's just something about film and television that communicates and tells our stories and tells history or captures history or communicates historical events in a very unique way, right? And I like that this was captured, or this was done with this film, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti. I also learned a lot. The third thing I really liked about this film, I learned a lot about that period in Nigeria's history and in the Ransome-Kuti family. And for example, the fact that so many women were able to gather and mobilize to advocate for certain things during that period. When you think about it, that's massive. This was a period where, it was just traditional media of radio, television, and newspapers. There was no social media, but yet thousands, tens of thousands of women gathered for different causes concerning just movements, rights, and women's rights as well. And getting that kind of mobilization and achieving those kinds of things without the internet, even today, that's a big deal, not to mention almost 60, 70, 80 years ago. So, I mean, watching this film and learning the impact that Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti had on our history in Nigeria was very moving for me. I cannot lie. I also really liked the performances in this film. The acting was brilliant. The cast was really great. I liked the costuming in the film. It's no wonder that the movie was nominated for Best Wardrobe or Best Costume at the AMVCAs. I loved the sound design. The ambient sounds, the use of music, the sound design was top-notch. I mean, this film was directed by Bolanle Austen-Peters, who is a giant in the theater space and now becoming a force to be reckoned with, if she's not already a force to be reckoned with in our movies space. And with what she does in theater, because I've been to a few of her productions at Terra Culture, you know that even with good theater generally, sound is a big deal, right? So it was nice to see her bringing to bear the richness of sound or the importance of good sound and music in this film, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, and more so the fact that Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti is by extension a member of a very musical family because of her son Fela. So the music and the sound in this film was really good, and I like that they didn't miss out on that element of the movie. Speaking of design, the production design on this film was brilliant. The visual elements of this film felt very, very intentional, from the architecture, the lines and the spaces, the sets. The visuals in this film were very, first of all, intentional. Nothing felt like it was out of place or that it was there by mistake. Everything felt intentional and everything felt accurate to the time that this movie was captured in, or that the period depicted, which was, from the early 1900s to the 1940s and 50s, where we spend the majority of the film, till I think was the 70s, where we see the older Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti played by Silva. So everything visually felt intentional and felt very accurate to the times. Production design, top notch. Qui devrait le voir? First of all, I'd be very surprised if you're watching this review and you haven't seen Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti yet. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, I think that this film is suitable for people who like a good film generally. Not just a good Nollywood film, but a good film generally. It's just good filmmaking, right? Additionally, or secondly, I think people who enjoy history or Nigerian history should see this film. You really appreciate this movie if you fall into that category. Now, I want to give a few honorable mentions because this movie is star-studded. If you look closely, a lot of the supporting acts in this film were big names, right? And I don't think I can do this review without mentioning these people. So there are like 12 actors whose names I want to say really quickly. First of all, Omowunmi Dada was in the film, brilliant performance. Adunni was really good in the film. Atlanta, Bridget Johnson, shout out to her. Tracey George, my homegirl, she was really good. If you haven't seen Strained on Netflix, see that. Tracey was in that. I really enjoyed that film. Yewande Osamein was also really good in the film. Bikiya Graham Douglas, who I met, I think, back in April at a corporate function. She recognized me and I was a bit surprised. I was like, you know who I am? She was like, yeah, I know you. So what's up, Bikiya? Once again, Bikiya, you were fantastic in Wrath and Revenge. Really loved your performance in that. Moving on, Keppy Ekpeyong was in the film playing Israel Ransome-Kuti's father. Can't remember the character's name, but you know, he was Ibrahim Suleiman's character's dad in the film. Shawn Faqua was also in the film as Professor Beko Ransome-Kuti. Shout out to Shawn Faqua, he did a good job. Also, Yeni Kuti, Fela's daughter, she played her aunt in the film Dolupo. I'm familiar with the name Dolapo, but I've never heard the name Dolupo before. Anyway, that's who Yeni Kuti played. There was also the man who played Fela in the film, but that was Kunle Kuti, another member of the Kuti family. And the Kuti family were prominent in this film. There are a few of them. If you watch the end credits, you see a number of the Kutis, you know, were cast members in this film. So shout out to them. Finally, well, almost finally, I want to shout out to Bolanle Austen-Peters, who appeared in the film as well. She played the character Mrs. Peters. In fact, in the end credits, her name is Bolanle Austen-Peters. And she was in that scene where the women gather, you know, when Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti decides to, before she decides to include the market women, when she meets with the elite women for the first time, and I think subsequent times, we see Bolanle Austen-Peters, the director of the film, producer and executive producer of the film, in that scene. So, I mean, why not? You're doing a big film, why not put yourself in the film? It was nice, and it was a nice touch to see her in her own film. And lastly, shout out to all the women who may or may not have been actors that were like supporting actors, or like they were just, I forget the word now, extras. Yeah, there were extras in the film that formed the large crowds of women in the movie. They really made a huge impact, especially with those expansive scenes where there are just loads and loads of women in front of the palace. So shout out to those women as well. Shout out to all these wonderful actors who, you know, took supporting roles and made this film the masterpiece that it was. In conclusion, this was a great film. I love what it's done in terms of capturing a bit of our history and the history of this very prominent Nigerian family. It was very well executed. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I see why it was such a big deal at AFRIF last year and, you know, during award season a couple of months ago. And I also want to take this opportunity to apologize to Kehinde Bankole because when the AMVCA's the nominees were announced a few months ago, and I, you know, did a video, and I said a couple of things when I read out her name as a nominee for Best Actress. In fact, let me not talk too much. Let me just roll the clip. Here it is. Evelyn Illy for Mami Water. Kehinde Bankole for Adire. Not Kehinde Bankole for Sister. Kehinde Bankole for Adire. The funny thing is, when I did my awards, my Viewers' Choice Awards back in December, Kehinde Bankole won for her performance in Sister. So why... Firefly, oh gosh. Why Adire of all films? Yeah, so you can imagine my surprise on award night when she actually won for her performance in Adire. I was shocked, and you know, Nigeria is small, Lagos is small, so I wouldn't be surprised if she saw my video of me laughing at that nomination. So in case she sees this too, Ms. Bankole, I'm sorry. Kehinde Bankole is a fantastic actress. She's one of my favorites. Like I said, in one video I did, I can't remember which one, when I did my own awards late last year, Kehinde Bankole, and it was open to the public to vote, Kehinde Bankole won for Best Actress for her performance in Sister. So I think she's a great actress. I really like her. I love her acting. But I just kind of had an issue with Adire. Yeah. So, yeah, in case she sees this, Ms. Bankole, I apologize for laughing. Anyway, yeah, let me rate this movie. Let me give it a jollof rating. I give I give this film, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, 4.5 jollofs over 5. 4.5 over 5. I feel like I'm forgetting something that I want to say about this movie, but I've said enough. This has been a very long review. If you haven't seen the film, see it on Prime Video. It's on Prime Video right now. If you have seen the film, let me know in the comment section down below what you enjoyed about Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, this amazing film. Shout out to Bolanle Austen-Peters, who really knows her stuff. She's, you know what I mean, she's doing some really good films and some really films that like people will be talking about for a long time, right? And she's really good at execution. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this review, please do me a favor and like it by clicking on the like button just underneath the video, and subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. On this channel, I don't just do Nollywood movie reviews. Sometimes I do some other things. To check out some of my previous Nollywood reviews, like my review of Beyond the Veil, the series which came out not too long ago, which is also on Prime Video. For that and other reviews, you can click the card in the corner of the screen. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been fun. I guess I'll catch you guys real soon in my next review, which should be the review of Shawn, which came out like last week on Netflix. I have to get around to filming that review. Thanks, guys. Catch you in the next one. Take care. I want to take a quick moment to say how I felt this movie, Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, was very thought-provoking. It really touched me and it got the wheels turning in my head concerning women's rights and women's empowerment and the things that women have gone through in the past, you know, in past decades and or maybe even past centuries, regarding fighting for their rights and trying to achieve equality and just not to be oppressed, right? And I mean, while the women's movement has come a really long way over the years, and I think Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti would be happy with the progress women have made, you know, today, you know, in 2024. While there's that, I feel there's still lots of room for improvement. Women are still fighting for equality and equity and even to be heard in many cases. So I think the struggle or the cause or the movement continues in one way or the other, and we should all be open to it, because there is no reason that anyone should be subjugated or oppressed or, you know, sidelined or whatever, or abused or discriminated against based on their gender, or, you know, based on their race, or based on their income status, or anything. You know, we're all in this life or this world together as one human race, and discrimination is an ugly thing and no one should have to endure it. So this film really did get me thinking about what women have gone through in the past and the sacrifices they've had to make, and what women are still going through today, because we hear the struggles that women face in day-to-day life in even the most sophisticated societies, right? And it's not right. That shouldn't be the case. There's no place for it in society. And I think the cause or the movement for equality, equity, and just the abolishment of discrimination should continue until we all get to a place where we have a good level of equality and recognition of people's rights. Yeah.